Hey everyone, it's Gabbie
and Danny.
And Manny.
and you're listening to Oye, Let's Talk.
So we're back and talking about the box office. So if you remember that, it's this old relic that you used to walk up to and you would talk to sometimes a human being, but occasionally a computer and ask for a movie ticket. I know, scandalous. I hardly remember those days, y'all, but we're going to go ahead and reminisce a bit.
Bring it
And
back!
The three of us are going to do a little throwback and speak of the last time we saw a box office and which movie we saw in theaters before the pandemic locked everything down.
I'm gonna be really honest with you guys. The movies wasn't ever a point of like, oh my god, I really want to go to the movies.
What?
Yeah, no, I don't know. I like it, but at the same time, it's like I can be just as comfortable in my house.
Wow.
But listen. After the pandemic, I really miss going to the movies. Like, I really want to go to the movies. And what sucks is, I mean, in some areas, movie theaters have opened for the most part. But at this point, movies aren't being released. No big, film studio wants to be releasing their movies and having a loss at the box office. So smartly so, they're waiting, but they're depriving us of good entertainment.
So I have a question for you, Manny. Is this the reason why you miss it sort of thing because it's like I want it but I can't have it sort of situation, or
I
like
think that's exactly
yeah.
what it is. Like, I want to be in an enclosed space with a lot of people in a dark room watching
With
a movie.
strangers.
That's so
Yes,
Ooh.
and some overpriced popcorn.
Well, I actually really love the movies. That
Mhm.
was a very common date with my fiance and I, and any friend really. Like it would used to be a birthday thing. Like let's go to the movies. And I really do think it's cool that theaters have tried to make the best of it. Like you can rent out a movie theater for you and your friends now. I hope that that doesn't go away. And then pick what movie you'd like to see with them. I think that's very cute. But I don't know, like one of the last movies I saw before the pandemic, which for the record, many theaters have still been shut down a year or longer, depending on the movie chain and state laws. So to think that some people haven't sat in the theater at all for over a year is kind of intense. And to think that I used to always go to watch superhero movies in the theater because you want that surround sound and that giant screen and stuff. Like I love Spider-Man, and that was one of the last films I saw in theaters. And that came out April 2019. I probably saw it a month later because Endgame came out around the same time. Also saw that one in theaters. But I even remember because I have weekdays off. I went and watched Aladdin by myself, one of the final showings. That was the last movie I saw, which I was kind of like shy to admit. I feel like even going to the movies by yourself is an
I've
okay
done that
thing to do.
too. I've done that too. We need to normalize that. Like that's a
You don't have
thing.
I think
I
it's great
second.
because you don't have to talk to anyone. You
Nobody
can,
sees you. It's dark.
yeah, you have your food and you can still enjoy your time instead of being stuck at home. Like at least you feel like you got out. And
Absolutely.
I love the theater, so I'm like,
Me
oh, this
too.
is excellent. Like I can go watch a matinee really cheap by myself
Mhm.
and spend 2 hours of my day doing something fun and not spending a whole lot of money to do it.
Manny, you're just weird. I'm sorry.
And no. I'm gonna say to anyone who's listening and think that's kind of weird. At one point I thought that was really weird. Maybe like around 4 or 5 years ago, I was like, I remember there was a friend in college who did this, and I was like, what? Do you need a friend? Do you need me to go with you? Like I genuinely felt so bad, but I ended up giving in, and I remember it being such a nice time. It's almost like a little self care moment
It definitely
because
is.
you're
Yeah.
you're by yourself, you're kind of just enjoying this moment, alone time with yourself. It's so good. It's so good. So whoever out there is skeptical on it, I was too, but hands down recommend going to the movies by yourself. It's amazing.
I definitely miss the movies. It's always definitely been like a bonding experience for me, whether it's with friends or family members, especially family. Like just growing up, I always felt like there was not much to do in Miami. For those of you who don't live in Miami, no, we don't go to the beaches every single day. No, it's not like a 10-minute drive. It's like a 40 to 50-minute drive, depending on the traffic. Um, so movies was where it was at pretty much. Like my weekends was at the movies, and even now like for date nights and stuff like that, like that was always a fun thing to do. I will say one of my biggest pet peeves though is like it's weird. I don't like people talking to me during the movie, but I find myself like yelling at the screen all the
Oh
time.
my gosh, I love
And like
people
I'll
like
talk
that.
to the screen.
No, that's
um
my favorite when you go with a good movie theater crowd and like someone cracks a joke or something during an intense moment, or you hear everyone cheering or crying for the same
yeah.
characters. Like that sense of camaraderie with a bunch of strangers who clearly have a similar interest as you
Yes.
because you're watching the same film. I'm a fan. Which again, if you go by yourself, you're suddenly part of a group, so that's kind of nice too.
True.
But I wanted to know, like, what was the last movie you all saw, Danny, Manny? If you don't remember, it's okay because I know you're not a fan, so it's fine.
Okay, listen, let me clear my name before it keeps getting smeared. I like going to the movies, don't get me wrong. And I went often a lot last year, especially when all these Marvel movies were coming out. I was a huge fan. But the last movie I did see was with my girlfriend on a date as well, and it was the Bad Boys, the most recent one that they remade, and it was really funny and it was good. But funny enough, I don't think anyone in that moment was like, "Oh, this is the last movie I'm going to see in quite a long time."
Would you have picked a different movie if that was the case? Like if you knew that was the last movie you would see at the theaters for a year?
Yes, I definitely would.
Now, the only thing I wanted to say was the last movie I saw was The Joker, and it was also a movie date. But I really actually wanted to watch The Joker for a long time. I'm a big fan of those movies.
Good pick, good pick.
So your hot take, please.
So yeah, only Manny's is the most embarrassing. So please tell us how you probably had a bougie viewing experience just to watch that
So
film.
here's my thing. If I'm gonna go to the movies, I'm going for the experience of seeing it for better quality of sound, better quality of image. If not, I'd rather just stay home in my comfy couch and I can eat
Wow. So
whatever snacks I want.
if the movie is shitty in your eyes, it is truly shitty because of the with the surround system and all of the extra stuff is handed to you, or well, not handed to you because you pay for
So
it.
it's like not
But
an XD, like it's or HD. It's not like
Right. No, I need to have it needs to have reclining chairs, reserved seating, and I think it's worth the money because I'm going for the experience. If I'm going to sit in a boo-boo chair that I'm going to be uncomfortable for the entire time, or it smells like, moldy socks in the movie
Ugh.
theaters, I'm
yeah.
not about it.
I
I want to
can
pay
get
for a
that.
nice movie. Yeah. And if you guys have ever, I don't think IMAX is worth it, unless you go to like a really big IMAX theater. But what I really recommend, if you guys have ever been to a Dolby Atmos theater, awesome, so cool,
Yes.
so cool. I don't like 3D movies. I will say that. I think they give you a headache and it's more of a gimmick, and it kind of sometimes ruins the viewing experience because you're just
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah,
like
I'm not a
it
huge
tires your eyes. So that no, but definitely Dolby's Atmos, where like your seats vibrating, you're like sitting on these deluxe chairs. It feels badass. But that's just my take. That's just me. Anyone who goes to movies with me will know this.
That's actually very interesting because I never thought about it. I've always just gone to whatever theaters nearby. And one of the cool things about movie theaters is that it's pretty much like a universal experience, that they're not too far off no matter where you go from what you think it's going to be. Granted, some of them have more gimmicky stuff or have like cool items to it, like whether like, oh, cool, when you walk in, you might see a waterfall or you could take a picture with a cutout. But otherwise, wherever you go, you're gonna go sit in a theater and like the curtains are gonna open for a big screen and you're gonna see a movie that you paid to see. And even if it's like one of those alternative theaters, one of those smaller theaters, a giant one, it's kind of all the same frame of reference. So I always think that's really cool because it's universal, like I was even talking to my cousins in Panama and they're like, yeah, same thing, like, oh, we can go to the movie theater here or it's in a mall or etc. So it's a cool tie to have universally. um, but with the pandemic, no one's really experiencing this. And I'm thinking, like, how sad some of these kids, they've been robbed of a lot, don't get me wrong, but they're being robbed of like watching their favorite cartoon or something on the big screen.
But now they get
Right.
to watch it from their couch, with their little blankets and
Or
mommy
on
and
their
dad.
tablets or cell phones now, which I'm like, wow, I can't believe some of
Yeah,
these
let's
kids
not.
have
At least
all
on
that.
the TV, like at least, come on.
But I don't know. It's not, to me, it's not the same feeling. Like having a date night at home, sure, it could be cheaper and like, okay, I can buy my popcorn, whatever. But not gonna lie, don't sue me for this. Like, I would go get cheap Buffalo Wild Wings or bring in leftover wings into my purse and like watch a movie. Like,
Purse?
it's yes, and bring like my own juice or something. Like, I had no shame in my parents, but I'm not joking. When I went to Aladdin, I had like my appetizer, my dinner. I was one of the only people in the theater. I had like my drink and a coffee. Like,
This girl was having the whole dining experience in a movie.
which, as Manny was saying, like he was saying, like, oh, a bougie experience. I'm like, oh, I don't know, those dinner theaters can kind of be a lot for not that great food. Like, I
don't eat at the bougie theaters. I will say that.
But Disney's is really good, by the way. If you ever go to Disney Springs, their AMC like dine-in movie theater experience is excellent. But regardless, my point is
not sponsored by Disney.
But Disney will be mentioned probably a few more times. I just think like the price of a ticket has gone up. I remember the days when it was like $6 or $7, or there's one movie theater near my hometown where ticket prices were always $10. I actually recently passed by it. It's still not open, even though they're allowed to be open in Dade County, which I think it's because they can't live up to the $10 ticket movie deal thing. But now tickets can be like $12 or $13, and I'm just very shocked. Like, after the pandemic, I'm wondering how much they're gonna make tickets when like there's actually more movies to watch and such, or something to bounce back from. Like, the whole pricing thing is just shocking to me because I saw the prices going up. 2019 was a great movie year. 2020 clearly was not. But I can only imagine like flight prices have skyrocketed. Like, oh man, what am I gonna pay to watch like the next Spider-Man? I'm actually very concerned about this.
You know, I actually think that I hope, and here's my take. I think the industry is going to have a good bounce back because people have been deprived for so long that not having that experience once it's back, people will definitely go. Like, all these movies have been held back from being released
Or canceled.
or canceled to begin with. I think it's very interesting how studios are literally waiting. I think they are banking that it's going to rebound and people are going to hit the theaters.
So, for perspective, just to throw some fact on our observations, is that if you think about it, how I said 2019 was like a great movie year, the ticket haul, basically, how much they made just from ticket sales was around $11.4 billion. That's according to Forbes. In 2020, it was down 80% to only 2.2.
Wow.
2.2 billion, which is still a lot in 2020 because there was a lot of great movies that came out like from January through March. But still, to think that it dropped that much, and obviously they're going to want to bounce back to at least 10 billion. Like, they're going to have to get there relatively quickly. And there's a slate of a lot of great movies expecting to come out. But now here comes our next topic, how movie releases have changed during the pandemic. It's not the same. Either they've held off, or they've teased some, or they've released some on certain platforms, or are planning to release them on certain platforms versus others. I don't know, which ones have you all noticed and bracing for, and which platform would you rather watch it on, theaters versus small screen?
Always theaters, hands down. Like, if I have the opportunity to watch it I guess it depends on the movie. I will say that. I feel like there's some movies that I love, but I know are not good movies, if that makes sense. Like, I love to watch a bad movie with like all of my favorite actors and actresses, but I just know it's going to be a bad movie. I wouldn't pay to watch that in the theater, for example. I'll wait until it comes out on Netflix or Hulu or wherever, and I'll watch it in the comfort of my own home. But if it's like a legit movie, well, what I consider legit, so like the Joker, for example, or the Avengers, or I don't know, like a very drama oriented film, maybe even an animated one too. Like, there's a lot of good Pixar movies out there, like Incredibles, for example. They're one of my favorites, so I will invest, so to speak, and watch it in the theaters. So I think it depends on the movie.
Manny, you movie hater.
What? So obviously, with movie theaters closed, movie studios have been creative in releasing their content. I think for the most part, it looks like most of them are holding to release their movies when theaters reopen, but some have released their movies kind of like Disney Plus, with how they've done with Mulan, and now recently this other Raya movie, where at first they had like a
I was
a
so
specific.
excited for that one. Go ahead.
I just don't like that they made you pay extra to see it. Like, once you're even as a Disney Plus subscriber, you had to pay
Like
extra to see it
$30.
first.
Yeah.
Yeah, or if not, you had to wait. Yeah, but I think Disney can afford to do that because it's such a big company, and maybe
They know people are
they're
gonna pay for it because they really want to watch it.
maybe, or they don't see this as much of a loss if they release it on on their streaming platform, whereas all the other just movie studios are kind of waiting to get the most bang for their buck.
And I happen to know that Disney just recently announced that Disney Plus has been around for less than 2 years, or they're coming up on their 2-year mark. And they've now have over 100 million subscribers, which is actually pretty intense considering that they started off with only old material. They didn't have exclusive or new material on their streaming platform. So Disney CEO announced that their goal is to make 100 new titles on their streaming platform a year. And when you think about 100 new titles, that's kind of a lot. That's a huge commitment to make, but they feel like they can do that. So their goal is not to compete with what they would release in theaters, supposedly is what the CEO Japek said, but to hopefully find a balance between the two. So they're even toying with the idea of like re-releasing Mulan into theaters just for those who wanted that experience because they couldn't give it to them and to like please their fans. And I think that's interesting that, we could be looking at re-releases. Like there might be enough of an audience for people to want to go to the theaters and not watch it, even though it's available on their subscription. Or as Manny mentioned, like people paying extra to watch something at home sooner on a release date as opposed to later when they can watch it for their regular subscription price or for the price of a ticket in theaters. So I think we're just going to see a lot of changes in terms of like what box office looks like. And I think the number or the term box office or blockbuster is going to like change over time. We're probably going to see something new. I don't know what yet.
Ugh,
But
you
even
mentioned
like the term
Blockbuster and I
blockbuster has
thought
been
of
like used, huh?
you mentioned Blockbuster and I thought of Blockbusters, and I miss those times, guys, when you would go into Blockbusters and pick out a movie that was in VHS to watch. Oh, those were the days.
I loved that. That was super fun for me.
Bring
And
it back.
but it's the same thing now as just going on a platform and picking
Right.
out a movie.
Yeah.
So to that note, like where do we draw the line? Like what is considered now the box office?
I think at the end of the day, these studios want to make money. So obviously, streaming platforms have thrown a wrench into their business model. So I think they either adapt or die. And if I think movies end up going on a streaming platform, they're going to be definitely more expensive to watch or to buy or watch. Because if you're gonna buy it, you can have a viewing, you can show your family, you can watch it over, several times.
Wouldn't you argue that it's kind of the same thing with streaming platforms in general? I mean, ethically speaking and ethically more than morally, it's wrong, but technically I could give you my password and you could watch it technically for free even though I'm paying for it. So the amount of so-called viewers is kind of unknown and it's unlimited in that sense. So how, you know what I mean? Because you were
Oh,
talking
like
about,
how they're counting. I think they count like
yeah.
how often people click and go through a movie, even if it's a repeat on an account. Like
Okay.
this movie was streamed 7 million times.
But to Manny's point, they don't make it more expensive. I'm still technically paying those $5 a month or whatever without them knowing how many people are watching in one sitting or in multiple sittings.
Well, if you haven't
Right.
noticed, all the new platforms have like released their subscription plans, and then anyone who's been in the game already, like Netflix and Disney Plus, have raised the price of their subscriptions. So if you want more than one, before you could afford two or three for less than $20, and now that's not the case. And then you have something like HBO Max. I love going to the theaters for superhero movies. I will gladly, like as Manny said, I will pay that bougie ticket to sit there for those 3 hours with my overpriced popcorn and my nice pretzel and et cetera, et cetera.
And the ices, don't forget the ices.
The ices, yes, red and blue, you can mix them. That's my key right there. Ask for both when the theaters open up again. But point being is HBO Max is doing like, I think their subscription service starts off already in the double digits, which most people start at least like $7-8. And then you can pay extra to see certain movies for 30 days. Or
Mm.
I think Black Widow is going to be one of the ones that they release for 30 days and then it's only going to be in theaters. So you have a month to watch it on the small screen and you might have to pay extra. So it's material like that where, oh, that's smart, because even if you share, you have a limited time to share. That's only 2 or 3 weekends in a month.
And it's more expensive, you said, right?
Yes. And in some cases, it's more expensive. Not all movies are going to get this treatment on all subscription plans. But if you go to the theater anytime, you know, the ticket price is the same. And then you choose to the add-on experiences if you want. So AMC went from broke to like now they're coming out of bankruptcy and like having all these plans to release all these movies and toying with subscription services. I think, as Manny said, like you adapt or die, and a lot of them are working to adapt the best way to still get more bang for their buck, or more bucks out of your trying to cheat them out of it, to be honest.
True.
Right.
And to me, that's impressive. Like they're trying to get out of debt and still make a profit.
It's fascinating.
And it's working, clearly, because there's a demand for it.
Evil
Honestly,
geniuses.
Leave it to capitalism to figure out how they're going to make the money. They're going to make it at the end of the day. They might charge you every time you watch it. They might charge you once. They might charge you at the end. They're going to charge you somewhere to watch their movie. I just want movie theaters to come back. Like Gabbie said, I want to go pay my bougie ticket.
Now the kid wants to go. Did y'all hear that? Now
Yes,
the kid
I want to go. I want to go.
It's because we've been deprived of the experience. I think this is a good time to mention, like, when would you turn to the movie theaters? Like, when were the most common ways that you would go watch a movie in the theaters?
Well, I will give a fun fact. Since movie theaters were closed for a good 7 to 9 months before anything opened up, I often went to the movie theater, to the drive-ins. I often went to the drive-ins with my girlfriend, and that was super fun.
Super cute.
And I was hoping, like, the closest drive-in near to me is kind of far and it's not that nice. So I was hoping the pandemic would kind of incentivize places to have more drive-ins or nicer drive-ins, because it's quite a fun experience, and you felt safe, and you can bring your snacks.
I've always wanted to do that. Oh,
super fun.
I love it. I'm a huge fan. And actually, to Manny's point, a business actually reopened a drive-in near my area. And I say near very loosely because it's still about an hour drive.
Okay.
But it was a few drive-ins actually had closed down because they wouldn't have the audience, and they reopened during the pandemic because the social distancing and like not being around strangers, being able to be from the comfort of your car. So I thought that was a very smart idea. The only issue is that they didn't have a lot of brand new movies to show, but they did a lot of like, oh, here's the kid hour, and then here's like a marathon of like The Incredibles or James Bond movies and etc. And I thought that was cool too, because they played on the nostalgia aspect.
Love it.
Right.
Need to try that.
But I would typically go to the movies on a date. That was a very popular date for Lewis and I. And also with my family, like even Christmas Day, because we didn't have too much to do and my parents worked odd hours in the healthcare field. So, we know we can go watch a movie at 11 a.m. and it was something to do as a family before people had to go to work. Or my grandmother, because English is not her first language, it's hard for her to understand. Like we would go watch Muñequitos. Like we went to go watch Frozen 2 in theaters when she came to visit me once. And she understands that because the way kid movies are made, you don't have to understand everything they're saying. And she would laugh and such. So she was talking about how she's also missed going to the theaters. Like, even though she couldn't understand, it was just a nice way to be around people, and like her being older, just being able to sit down for a few hours and still like have entertainment and be out of the house. So I was thinking about that too, because I feel like the elderly have definitely been the ones to be stuck at home during the pandemic. And if she loved it, I can only imagine others found it very convenient, especially during the matinee senior hours, like 55 and up, cheaper tickets. It was nice.
Guys, I lied. I just looked it up. Frozen 2 was the last movie I saw because this one came out in November of 2019. And The Joker came out, I think, in like October. So lies. See, 1 month later, I watched another movie in the movie theaters.
Oh, then I probably lied too, because I definitely saw Frozen 2 in theaters. But
oh my God. And everyone was making fun of my last movie. Okay.
Frozen 2 is
Um,
excellent, first of all. Like, it is
Yeah.
very well done.
I will say I didn't jump on that bandwagon until like years later. Like it took me literally like 3 or 4 years after the first one came out to actually sit down and watch it, because it was one of those things where I thought it was very hyped and I was going to be very disappointed because everyone loved it and loved to reference it. And every time I would, be in a group setting and I'd be like, I've never watched Frozen. You've never watched Frozen? No, I haven't watched Frozen. Oh my God, it's life changing. And so I didn't
I
think it
did
was
that.
life changing, but it was very cute.
And to stay on this Frozen tip, I had a roommate in college, because I believe it came out my freshman year, who played the soundtrack on repeat before the movie came out, months before the movie
Jeez.
came out. So I can say Frozen 1 is not my favorite.
Okay, as much as I love talking about Frozen 1 and 2, the greats, I think we should talk about other greats and talk about our favorite movies. Since we've heard enough about Frozen from
Well
Gabbie and
then.
Danny, I will go ahead and share
Go
my
ahead,
list
Manny.
first of my favorite movies in no specific order.
Okay.
John Q. I don't know if you guys have ever heard about this movie.
No.
The father base. It's such an underrated movie because not a lot of people know about it. And basically, this father takes his child to the hospital. It's a Denzel Washington movie actually, but he was like super young. This is a 2002 movie. So his son has like his heart is too big for him. He has to get this major surgery. And it's super sad because he's like super frustrated. He ends up like taking people hostage at the hospital. It's a very good thriller. It's awesome. Yeah. I remember because I was really small and it making me cry, and it was such an impactful movie. It was very touching. And there's like a famous quote from that movie where it says, like, I will not bury my son today or something like that. Don't quote me on that. Very good movie.
Spoiler alert.
Next on my list, right, whatever. Next on my list is Kill Bill. I couldn't pick between 1 and 2, but it's a great movie.
I have yet to watch that.
Okay.
A classic Quentin Tarantino movie with beautiful, beautiful cinematography and great story plot. Just great story plot. If you haven't seen it, great action thriller. And my last movie, in no specific order, this one's a little more contemporary. I picked Get Out because it is such a great movie, great social commentary. I think I could watch it several times and not be bored. And that is my list.
I still haven't seen that one. I know it won awards.
Oh
and stuff
my
like
God,
that.
but you've seen Frozen too? We need to talk.
The thing is that I don't like horror films. I don't like scary movies. I will watch thrillers.
It's more like it's a psychological thriller.
So I like those. Yeah. But it has to be daylight though, or like I have to be hugging someone.
There's no boo. There's no like jumping out scenes.
Okay.
You would appreciate it.
Okay. I'll watch it then. It'll be on my
Your
list.
turn, Danny.
So I have a few classics. Yes, they're classics. So one of them is a very underrated film, which I feel like Gabby's going to mention too, because it's one of those things that we bonded over in our college days, because not a lot of people know of this movie. It's called The Dead Poets Society. Robin Williams is in it. I'm not sure when it was filmed. I want to say like in the 80s. Correct me if I'm wrong, Gabbie. Okay. Yeah, like 80s. Very cute storyline. It's basically Robin Williams as a teacher, and long story short, he inspires like the younger generation to, I guess, fulfill their dreams and be more outspoken. It's a very good movie.
Oh, Captain, my Captain.
Exactly. Okay. Oh, okay. Anyway, so my next one is the Harry Potter saga. Yes, it's a saga, but I'm grouping them into one because they're genius. I've read the books. Yes, the books may be better, but just the casting and just the cinematography, like it made me believe in magic. I still kind of believe in magic. Like, it's just amazing. And my last one is Inception. It's one of those movies that I've watched over and over again. So good. And I've like analyzed it 1,000 times. I wrote a paper on it. Was that one of yours too?
I should have included. That's such an amazing movie. That's
Christopher Nolan is amazing.
So good. So good.
So those are my top. What about you, Gabbie?
Oh my gosh, no. I also like Dead Poets Society. I'm a huge fan of seeing well-known actors in films where they don't portray, like, I guess, the typical role that they're normally casted for, and Robin Williams is just excellent in that film. And I also don't like watching anything that's longer than 2 hours, so if I dedicate myself to it, like, it's probably a really good movie. So I high-key recommend The Dead Poets Society, but I'm also a huge fan of any types of 80s movie. I will argue to the death to say that that's probably one of the best periods for films in the modern day film industry. So those 80s John Hughes movies, you know, like The Breakfast Club. I also love Stand and Deliver. Anything with Molly Ringwald. Like, I'm the type to be like, today I'm in a marathon Molly Ringwald films and then just watch a bunch of movies with her.
So you really like the classics, like you're super into classics.
Yes, but they're called classics. So to my mom, they were very new movies, and she's very much the one who influenced my taste. So they were new to her at the time, or like remind her of her youth, but they're classics to us. Right. So I do agree they're classics. I talked to my cousin now, who's now 20, and I'm like, have you seen this? And now Mean Girls is a classic to us as well, but the new generation does not know what that is.
Sad.
I won't get into that, but if you haven't seen Mean Girls, it's very quotable and worth your time.
Different category of so-called classic, I would say.
Yeah, I would say it's a girl classic, but anyway. I also really like, as I mentioned before, superhero movies.
How long is this list? What we said three. I'm going through a list of 7. I love 80s movies. What movie is that?
We're just trying to turn the hate on us.
Dead Poet Societies from the 80s, and also 16 Candles and The Breakfast Club. But anyway, I also like Spider-Man films. All of them. Everyone's like, which one's your favorite Spider-Man? I'm like, they all bring something unique to the film.
This is why Gabbie wanted to go last.
Yes, this is why. This is why.
Oh my god.
Don't fight me. Every Spider-Man has like contributed to the franchise. I don't care. I'm glad the new Spider-Man's great, whatever. But if you're an OG, you're okay with whomever plays it.
I don't know.
And one of my favorite films as well is Who is Eating Gilbert Grape. For those of you who know Leonardo DiCaprio, probably one of the greatest actors of our generation, he plays a mentally challenged individual or kid in the movie, and he should have won an Oscar for that role at the young age of like 13 or 14, and he didn't. So he was great straight out the womb, and that's a film that proves it. And that's it, okay? That's my list, Manny.
Okay, since Gabbie wanted to add to the list, I just want to mention 2 honorable mentions because you mentioned Leonardo DiCaprio, and Danny had mentioned Inception, and that made me remember Shutter Island with Leonardo DiCaprio. I don't know if you guys remember that movie. Super good.
Yes, that was actually
another like thriller that I just thought of. And the other one was Wolf of Wall Street. Such a good movie.
Really? I didn't love it.
Super long though, but good.
It was really long. It's not something that I can repeat often.
I don't know if I would recommend it though. I don't know. It was
now that it's a guy movie, so yeah. I feel like
what is that supposed to mean? What if I said it's a girl movie?
You do say that. Get out of here.
We're trying not to say that.
Anyone can like it, but
what's a girl movie and what's a guy movie?
Like the lovey-dovey ones that you roll your eyes at when we want to watch it.
With the romantic comedy.
Also, guys can't watch romantic comedies?
No, they absolutely can. But who is a target audience?
Apparently not many, because Manny doesn't like going to the movie theaters.
Some of us still can't watch what we want to see in theaters, and some of us can. So if you are privileged, please buy a ticket in my honor. For those who are still listening at this point in time, thanks for tuning in. Let us know about your experience at the box office, whether it's new, your last one, why you want to go there, and what movies you want to see. We're here. Just, hit us up on Instagram. Give us your latest movie review. And tell us what it's like post-pandemic, if we ever make it that far. And, of course, I hope so. Feel free to say, oye, let's talk about these new movies coming up, because summer's going to be it. I'm ready for it. I'm waiting on it.